Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Astra and Simba are going at it right now.
Yeah, let me switch to my headphones. I think this is it. Let me test. Yes. Okay. All right. Hello. All right.
When should I? Oh, okay. Whatever.
Hey.
Try to catch you by yourself to ask you when should I come by and bring my stuff.
You can do it whenever this evening after class. You can.
Okay, tonight. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, hello. Dog's getting huge.
Yeah, he's come on.
Good evening. Well, you laughing at me, Isai. You know you're being recorded, Giggles.
I do know that.
For the record, Isai has the best laugh ever. Just for the record.
Absolutely.
Just so we can
Thank
just have that officially acknowledged.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Give folks a few more minutes.
Hey, you switched it up on us, huh? I can't hear. You muted.
I'm sorry. I was hoping to do the background for our gathering. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. Oh, here we go. That's better. Oh, let me reverse it. There we go. All right. How's it going, everyone?
It's Friday.
Yes, it is. It's Friday.
And the weather is good.
It's beautiful out. It's really beautiful. I had a little time to enjoy the weather today. Not a lot, but a little. Yeah.
So it's going to be even better tomorrow and Sunday.
Yes, tomorrow I'm going to the opening for Haji, the reopening in Brownsville.
Oh,
So it's just a small like soft opening. So I'm just gonna go just hang out and no work to be done, just to be present and enjoy. So I'm looking forward to that tomorrow.
Where did Aya move to?
To Brownsville.
on Cottage Grove.
Okay.
I can't
Wait,
picture what's around there.
where on
Yeah,
Cottage?
It's like 43rd.
Oh,
43rd.
I know that building. Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
It'll be interesting to see how and she's very excited to show us everything. So we're looking forward to that. So we have a good number of people here. I'll keep an eye on the
You want me to do it?
oh, you know what? I would welcome that, and I'm gonna give you that opportunity right now. Oh, I have to make you the host versus me. So I can't
Oh,
because I this isn't my
yeah, I see you're still using the other FK Dixon, huh?
yeah, it's another name. I'm gonna rename her I don't know why that name shows up, so I'm gonna rename it. All right, there we go. That's more like it. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna keep an eye on trying to keep an eye on the room and my text in case, but I think we straightened out all of the questions about the room and where to find each other. So I think I'm safe to get started. Welcome everyone. Happy Friday. And I'd like to acknowledge, as I mentioned to some of you today, today happens to be the feast day for Oba. Oba is spelled either with one B or two B's, depending on where you're from and what your relationship with the language is. And Oba is for feast days. I'll back up and explain a little bit about feast days. So feast days for this tradition is one of the few few is probably one of the more consistent uh, reflections of the syncretism that acknowledges both Catholicism and its influence on the on Lukumi practices and traditions. So the feast day is the day that the Orisha is acknowledged and worshipped. That correlates to the day of the saint that the Orisha was syncretized with. So, and that affects some pretty prominent feast days are pretty important or very well linked or integrated into practice. For Oba, this just means for all people who are initiated to Oba or have a special relationship with Oba, today would be a day that they would set aside, say prayers to Oba, light a candle to Oba at their shrine where Oba resides, and give Oba our attention. And it's something that's understood amongst those who collectively worship and acknowledge Oba. One example that I think is more prominent for us is the syncretization day for the feast day for Babaluaye, which is in December. And even though we and us and Babaluaye is syncretized with the Orisha Saint Lazarus, not the Orisha, the Catholic Saint Lazarus. So on that day, we have the feeding of a Babaluaye, or at least on that weekend. It's a pretty big deal, pretty consistent practice in terms of how people acknowledge the Orisha and acknowledge and pray and worship and work with that Orisha. In Cuba, if you go to Cuba during any time during the Feast of Babaluaye, and even also in Brazil, it's a very important and prominent day that affects communities pretty broadly. So even though the date is syncretized with the date of the saint may be acknowledged, but the worship and the focus and attention is on the actual Orisha. And so, of course, for those of you, many of you know, syncretization was a tool of resistance for enslaved Africans across and it's interesting, across the diaspora. Even if a Cuban never spoke to a Brazilian or someone from Suriname or someone from Venezuela or someone from, this tool was used broadly and widely, even with across the diaspora, as a way to retain knowledge, practice, and engagement with the Orisha while showing the face of the Catholic saint to their oppressors. So we don't have any Catholic practices or rituals that are engaged in the acknowledgement of the Orisha. Just literally for in hundreds of years past, only the physical kind of presence of or lithograph of that saint would be what the enslaver would see, but behind the scenes you would have active worship, active praise, active sacrifices being made, songs being sung, all of that to that Orisha. And that syncretization process is a class in itself. So we won't go into much depth, but I just wanted to acknowledge that on certain days when the Orisha is worshipped, those days may oftentimes correlate with the day of a saint that Orisha it was considered to be connected with. Another example would be Oshun and Yemanja. My birthday happens to be the day literally between the feast day or right after the feast days of Oshun and a feast day of Yemanja. So when I have my birthday party, I can actually literally celebrate and acknowledge them along with my birthday. But that's another day that you may see a lot of this type of syncretization, as well as with Shango, December 4th you'll see more people either have some acknowledgement of Shango on that day. So that's when you see that is what that's related to. So are there any questions about that? No questions? Okay. I want to give you guys that background so you know. So there may be a day I may choose a feast day for acknowledging inner alignment with an Orisha, and that would be the basis and context for it. Okay. So, excuse the typo at the top there. We're going to be talking about Oba today, how Oba is worshipped in nature and in an Ile. If you have any questions about that, you can ask. Oral literature, what's said about Oba in oral literature, and we're going to feature a praise song and an Oriki to Oba at the end of the class today. So Oba is not an Orisha that we hear much about or speak much about. It's an Orisha that is not consecrated directly. Even if you are a child of Oba, much of the ritual knowledge of Oba has not been retained to the same level and depth of knowledge as with many other Orisha. But Oba is definitely worshipped. If you've ever attended a bembe, if you've ever attended a drum, you have heard songs sang to Oba. She is acknowledged at all bembes, and and she is ritually for us connected to Oshun. So daughters of Oba are also for us daughters of Oshun. They have a very close relationship, interestingly. And when I tell you the story of the Pataki in the end, it will be really interesting to consider that. So Oba is a riverine Orisha. There is, as there is a river to Oshun's name in Nigeria, there's a river to Yemoja's name in Nigeria. There's also a river to Oba's name in Nigeria. And I'll talk about when I speak of the Pataki, the river will go into the discussion of the river. Oba is considered one who rules over marriage and marital affairs. So she has generally a very specific role in that way. She is the Orisha one would speak to or work with if one has having issues, marital problems in their home. She is the Orisha to support a wife or a husband, but particularly a wife. She is an Orisha that she is a very feminine Orisha, but she's also a warrior, as you can see in this depiction of Oba. So she has a lot to teach us about marital duties, in quotes, about how one acknowledges their own needs and their own, their own happiness, particularly happiness in marriage. So, so when she is oftentimes brought up in divination, it is because there is either some concern with the home within a marriage, or concerns around as order in the home. If the home is very chaotic or does not have much structure, if there are no rules that define discipline, or there are no real kind of care in terms of how the home is kept, or there is a need to bring a sense of calm if there's a lot of chaos and craziness in the home. Oba is brought into the home. She is, oftentimes it'll be divine for her to be received in order for that to be addressed. That is her forte in many ways. And along with that, if a person is working, if they're having trouble with finishing something that they need to do for themselves, or if you have a huge project that's looming over you and you have very little either control or process or consistency in how you complete that project, Oba is an excellent resource and support for helping a person to figure out how to move past obstacles to get to some sense of completion, some sense of satisfaction with that. So she's very good for that. Oba there are different legends, patakis, or stories about Oba's origins in terms of her mythical origins in our tradition. But in our lineage, the lineage that I was taught in, she is the first wife of Shango. She, and that status, for some of you may not know, traditional Yoruba society was polygamous. And there's still polygamy practice today amongst some traditional, some contemporary Yoruba. But the first wife holds a particular status in the home. Any other, and actually traditionally, the first wife chooses her other wives. It's not the husband that does that, which is a misnomer oftentimes in our society. The polygamous marriages are generally matriarchal systems where women work together to secure, anything that's needed for the home, for it to run smoothly, for children to be raised properly, for any affairs, financial affairs to be taken care of consistently. So the role normally means that women working together to achieve and to grow the opportunities for the home to prosper. So Oba was the wife who was in charge of the home, in charge of all affairs related to managing and caring for the home for Shango. And I'll go more into her pataki later, but you should know that that was her role, and that is why when we work with Oba, we work with her around those issues because of her role in that area. Oba also was a very adept martial artist and warrior. She is bar none, masterful swordswoman and masterful at holding and managing the scepter. And because of that, some of her ritual implements incorporate these items into them. For those who have to receive Oba, they may receive these ritual implements as well. She is known for being able to stand to any masculine figure or energy and win. Not compete, but win. So to the point that there's a pataki that I will share later about how the male Orisha tried to subdue her by means that were not fair. And so that's how forthright she is and how strong she is. So she was not the first wife who was demure. Oba is not a demure feminine Orisha. She was not known for her delicate wiles, even though she is a female Orisha. She's not. She's considered to be as strong in war as men, but also known to be a wife who could manage and establish order in the home. So, but she could also use her skills in war as well as any man. Any questions about her so far? Everyone has their camera off today. Oh, not here. Okay, now I see some of you guys. Anyone have any questions about Oba so far? You guys are, so interesting how, because Oba is not what you would consider a typical wife. And that's why I wondered if there be any questions about that. But there are none, so I will move on. Has anyone heard of Oba before today or learned about Oba before today?
Yeah, when I was in Brazil, I saw, is purple one of her colors?
It's more like a dark, not purple,
but like a deep,
pinkish, purplish.
Yeah.
Or a deep maroon. Her beads for us are pink, like a pink and burgundy. And
That's
so kind of like along, and they have similar, but sometimes the colors in Candomblé are like very different from our colors for Orisha. Very different.
yeah.
Depending in some cases, like Oya is very different from our Oya, that kind of thing.
Well, that's the first time I saw her, and that's why it caught my eye because of the colors.
Hmm. Okay. So this is a representation of Oba in the Candomblé tradition. So Oba, as I mentioned, when we work with her, she is the one that reminds us of loyalty. Interestingly, people don't think of loyalty and fidelity in polygamous relationships, but we don't live in a polygamous society, or it's not condoned as a means by which people should be together and stay together. So even whatever the religious or committed arrangement a person has with their partner, it is generally Oba who will remind us of the importance of remaining loyal and remaining in honorous in your marriage and your marriage relationship. So she reminds us of that there is always, if there's an opportunity or interest in keeping that relationship together, keeping the partnership strong with a person, there's always an opportunity for a solution if you seek one. So Oba reminds us of that if there's a commitment to doing something more than what has been done, or bringing something to better outcome or fruition, there is a way to do that. And she is one of the Orisha that supports us in managing those opportunities for ourselves and giving us a sense of how are we working with our partner? How are we prioritizing our partner? Or how are they prioritizing us? Do we feel like we're getting the support and attention that we need in a relationship? What are the steps? Look, she helps us to acknowledge what are the steps that we need to take or that we need to acknowledge our partner to take in order for us to feel good in a relationship and for them to feel good in a relationship with us. So she helps us to identify the concerns in a relationship and work towards a solution, and to do so in order to avoid um, disorder or any concerns around that. Because if there is a concern that the couple should try to work it out, and they felt like they've gotten to the end of their line or they've gotten to the end of their capacity personally, and they need support. This is primarily the Orisha that we would come to. There are other Orishas, of course, that do speak to love, marriage, and relationships, but she is the only Orisha that is considered literally the patron Orisha of matrimony. And it's interesting that, she's not much heard of, even though this is her role, because oftentimes we'll go to Oshun because we would like to reinstitute love or reinstitute sensuality or reinstitute attractive or the laws of attraction in a relationship. So that's a different function from Oba. So if that is if those are concerns, then that is definitely Oshun's role. But for Oba, the concerns may deal with really looking at what's at the heart of the concern or problem. And even if we do have the powers of seduction on our side, which Oshun is affiliated with, if those are not long lasting. But if we can identify real steps in a relationship in addition to that we can take, looking at how people are valued, how people are respected, how people are are given opportunities to voice when they feeling that they don't feel cared for or whatever. Those types of things that help support order in a relationship and transparency in a relationship are Oba's specialties. So in tandem with that, I would also say, working in not acknowledging our own worth on our own terms. This is something that I think for Oba, especially with the Pataki, with her, with Oshun and Shango, and I'm going a little into the Pataki, but when we look to what we see others have in their relationships and wonder why we don't have it, or wonder why our relationship isn't like others, or why our relationship with our partner is not like others people's relationship with our partners, that can cause a certain type of distress. And especially if we have our own ashe, our own individual contribution or niche or connection to our partner that makes that relationship special. If we ignore that, chasing what looks like a greener fence with a relationship someone has with someone else, then we've oftentimes missed our opportunity for building a building block that could support the relationship on its own terms. So Oba teaches us about that. How do we recognize who we are? She was a warrior. She was a warrior. That was who she was. She was a martial artist. As Orisha, that is her strength. That is her what defines her in the world when we speak of what Oba's strengths were. And she was one who understood and could manage any situation. So putting that in a box where seduction is like two very different boxes, right? And alluring qualities are two very different boxes. So one of the cautionary tales I think Oba in her relationship with Shango has taught us is understanding and recognizing who we are in relationships and not who we are not. And of course, her and Shango had many things in common. Of course, he was a fourth Alafian of Oyo. He himself was a warrior. He himself was a great ruler and king and did so much to expand the Oyo Empire and to bring structure and order and prominence to the Oyo Empire. And as his wife, she made that presence in the home through her skills and knew that about herself. And this was something that they often had in common in how they related to each other. And those qualities helped them to have kind of a synergistic kind of relationship that supported it for as long as it lasted. It was not until she tried to step into a lane that was not her lane in that relationship that caused her demise in that relationship, which I'll talk about later. She is one that teaches us a lot about knowing what we have control over, knowing what we have, and knowing, being gentle with ourselves, being compassionate with ourselves, but knowing full well who we are, and knowing who we are ourselves, knowing how we operate in the world, know what we're actually able to accomplish and do, and build on that, rather than exploiting our weaknesses for in ways that don't support ourselves. So that's something I've learned a lot from Oba, is really learning, okay, if I know I'm really good at this, how do I really do as much as I can to build and grow and cultivate even more opportunities from what I know I'm really good at. She's a very good study of that as an idea. Any other questions that anyone might have about Oba?
So is she only over marital relationships?
That is her primary use and as an opportunity into not marital only, committed relationships. But she is the patron Orisha for matrimony, but she does support committed relationships. And I would say also because of the way I'm speaking about her, she supports our ability to in many ways I this I know some folks who disagree with this, but I believe she has a very deep and strong relationship with Ogun. And she actually, in terms of her qualities as a female Orisha, she has many qualities like Ogun. So she actually, in a way, gives us tools for commitment to a thing. So even if you're not in a committed relationship, if you're committed to your career, if you're committed to your service in the world, if you're committed to your business, if you're committed to your home, and if that's something that you really have a lot of emphasis, and dominion over, she helps us to move past obstacles, move past the eddies in life to get to the flow of life so that we can um, um, do our best to commit to all of those in all those ways we need to get a thing done. So I'd say it's beyond, even though that is her wheelhouse. I think it expands beyond that, because I know many people who've received OBA I can speak to, who have found when they were stuck in trying to get past it, either writer's block or not sure which direction to go in terms of their business, or not sure which direction to go in terms of their service in the world. She help them to bend rather than to break, and seeing how they can harness control over what they can do and grow that so that it can be prosperous. So I'd say even beyond that, but that is really something that she is oftentimes for divination required, as asked to support somebody with. It is matrimony, but I think it's more broadly applied in terms of how we work with her on an ongoing basis. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Andreas.
I just had a question about. Now I might be confusing sort of names, but it's her name is not connected to Oba. Isn't Oba like a leadership title too?
That is interesting. So there is, and Oba does mean king. That is what the name oftentimes translates into. You hear the word Oba in phrases related to Shango, Obako, so the king did not die. Um, Oba Ilu, king of illness, speaking of Babaluaye. So yes, it is a word that's attributed to men in power. Oba, number one, I think part of it is that the accent, because also there's a play on, as you know, Yoruba is a tonal language. There's oftentimes you'll see the same word, but depending on the accent mark and the direction of the accent mark, the tonal quality changes and the application of the word changes. But in Cuba, what and I don't know if this is true in other areas of the diaspora. I don't think it is. But where Oba is worshipped as an Orisha, she is referred to with two B's instead of just one. So if you look up Oba right now in YouTube, or if you look it up for like title, I was looking up music for Oba. I knew to put two B's instead of one, because I knew I'd find Lukumi songs for Oba using two B's. So you may oftentimes find there's a lot of information out there about her. Well, no, actually I take that back. There's not a lot of information on YouTube or on on websites about her. But I honestly think a lot of it is pretty bad. And I think part of it is for the reasons why I explained. Um, Very few acknowledge her role as a patron, Orisha, for marriage. Um, uh, that's one thing that's oftentimes misspoken when it comes to her. Um, Also, um, there's there's a lot of discussion about who she's the daughter of, and that she's the daughter of Yemanja, but there's a lot of information. Some say she's the daughter of Yemanja and Obatala, and some say it's other Orisha. So it's not very clear and consistent about who she derives from. And I think a lot of it has to do with so many of her traditions did not survive present day Cuba. Um, but those I study with folks who have done a lot of work with elders who have direct knowledge of Oba and Oba's um, um, Orisha worship, and but very, very, very few people have direct knowledge because many of those traditions were lost. Um, So I think that's why if you Google Oba and you look for Oba out there, you'll see a lot of information that either is contradictory or inconsistent with her Patekis and with her origins in terms of how she's worshipped in Yoruba land as well as in Cuba. So that's why, with the other more general rishas like Oshun or most of the information out there is not too bad, but with Oba, it's pretty inconsistent. And I think that's part of the reason why. So I know I gave you a much more extended play on that. But anyone have any questions about how to work with Oba?
Where are her sacred places in nature?
The river.
Oh,
Hmm. She is a river. She is a river Orisha, and she is worshipped at the river. There may be times that she's worshipped in other places for specific reasons, but she is a river Orisha, so she can be spoken to at the river. Her river is interestingly, in Yoruba land, is very close to Oshun River. In fact, it's almost next to it, or it's in a brackish area area of Oshun River, or near Ocean River, not of Ocean River. So it's interesting that her river is so close to Oshun Oshoko. Any other questions? I didn't see any in the chat. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about her her time as wife of Shango. So Oba, as I mentioned, was the first wife of Shango. She was she was the first wife, and at the time, she was the first wife of Shango. Oba Oshun was the youngest wife of Shango at the same time. And by all accounts, Oshun was Shango's favorite wife. And one of the reasons why Oshun was considered his favorite wife, is because she was such a great cook. Of course, she was beautiful, she was alluring, she was attractive, had all of these qualities of seduction, and she can cook very well. So Oba was, for lack of a better word, jealous of that relationship and was wanted to know how Oshun captured Shango's heart so well. And so Oshun, of course, guarded her secrets because she is the keeper of secrets. So when Oba wanted to know, so he loved a stew that she made, and Oba wanted to know from Oshun how she was able to make such a wonderful stew for Shango. So Oshun told Oba, well, I learned this trick that I'd like to share with you. And it's a secret, though. You can't tell anyone because if you tell, then, you won't have his favor. But something that I've done for Shango when I've cooked for him, his favorite food, is I cut off my ear and put part of my ear into the stew. And he enjoys it so much when it's done that way. And putting all reason aside, all logic aside, out of a desperate attempt to win Shango's heart, Oba did that. She cut her ear off and put it in the stew that Shango ate. That Shango to give to Shango. So she proudly served this stew to Shango, and while he was entertaining guests in their home, and um, Oba would not dare reveal who told her how to do this because she wanted to keep. She swore secrecy to Oshun she would never tell. But when she gave him the stew, he of course was livid. He felt that she was trying to poison him. She felt he was trying to compete with him for power. So there's a lot of interesting undertones to this in terms of the story. Because she is a warrior, some interpret this story as her way of over subduing Shango because she was such a dominant woman, feminine, dominant female Orisha, in that the attempt failed. Some interpret it as I just mentioned, with the Lukumi, largely interpreted as her trying to win his heart over Oshun, which she can never compete with Oshun, which I mentioned before. She can never compete with Oshun. This is Oshun could never compete with her. Oshun could never be the warrior that she was, right? But she could never have the laws of attraction, knowledge of the secrets of the laws of attraction that Oshun had. And Oshun was never going to give those away. So no matter how you look at it, the end result was tragedy for Oba. So Oba was banished from the home, and they say that she was so distraught that her tears were so many that they filled the space that we know to be the Oba River today. And when Oba's children mount, they normally mount covering one ear. And when they dance, they normally dance covering one ear. If you see, even in this picture, you see her dancing when Oba dances. She dances in Candomblé, or even in Lukumi, she dances covering one ear to acknowledge that tragedy that has come to in part define who Oba is. So Oba as a martial artist. So Oba trained with Ogun and and learned how to wield a scepter from I believe it was Inle who taught her how to wield a scepter, because Inle is also, of course, a warrior, Orisha. That also is a riverine, Orisha. Um, so Oba learned the arts of wielding a shield and a sword from her competitors, and she would compete with them often. She would fight them in battle, in competitions. She fought everyone. She fought all of the male Orishas how she came up against, including those who taught her. And she bested all of them. Ogun, um, when she came to fight Ogun, after she had beaten him, he actually tricked her. So he used trickery and cheated, and that's how he won in his battle against Oba. But that was, so everyone considers that not to have been won as a battle. So she is, like I said, martial artist par excellence, and a warrior that is considered to be undefeated in war, much in the way we speak of Oya. So she has those qualities. Another interesting thing I did not mention before about Oba, that I think bears more research or more knowledge about, more understanding about her, is that she has a very particular connection with Egun societies that worship female ancestors. Even in some of the songs we sing for her, they acknowledge her role as a masquerader, that historically she wore a mask, like the Egungun mask that you see in Nigeria. Her following in Nigeria wore these masquerading masks, but they wore them in honor of the foremothers. Um, and that is one of her specialties, is also working with her connection with female Egun, which is also interesting given Shango's relationship as a deified ancestor, which is interesting how they have that parallel relationship. Any questions about those patakis?
So after Oshun tricked her like that, what is their relationship?
That's what's so interesting. So, Oba's if Oba's knowledge of Oba worship were more broadly preserved, and even in Nigeria, it's not very. I think Candomblé is probably the place where there is probably the largest retention of worship of Oba. Even more than it, very little worship is maintained even in Nigeria of Oba. So it's interesting. So I don't know if I can answer that question fully. And I think if we have more knowledge um, I can speak for what I personally feel and think, but in terms of oral literature, there's not a lot of information that I feel confident sharing that would reflect that relationship, or how that relationship is in terms of their connections, in terms of it being Orisha. But I do believe that that there was a lesson between the two of them, and connection between the two of them, that knowing how sisters don't compete with each other. I think personally for me, that's what I get from it, is how sisters relate to each other, and how being sister wives, or being sisters in a Orisha, in a sense of Orisha, that they definitely have their own strengths. And there are things that, because Oba's children are initiated through Oshun, there are certain aspects of who Oshun is that becomes a part of that person of Oba, and certain aspects of Oba that affect that relationship that they have with Oshun. So to me, there is a complementary nature that is developed out of this idea of this tragedy and betrayal um, that actually probably more represents how Oba is. Even though we understand the Pataki, we also know that there has to have been some complementary synergy between those energies that made it possible for Oba's traditions to survive in Cuba. So, like I say, I wish I had more to share with you about that. That's something maybe we can explore together. And hopefully, I can ask my elders more about that. But that's my take on it: is that they are very complementary in their secrets that they keep, in the ways that they support, because support a person in their lives. And so I think that there's a possible complementary nature that may have been existing in oral literature that I just don't have access to. But that's my personal take on it. I hope that answers what you. I know there may be more to it. I'm sorry I can't give you more.
No, that gives me an idea. I was just trying to figure out just how that works.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know if I can tell you how it works. That may be one of those secrets that I can't share. Isai.
I was I was wondering, how did Oba fall for that? Like, why would she just cut off her ear without even thinking?
Right. So that's what it goes back to, some of the lessons, I think, or how we work with Oba, and some of the qualities of Oba that we've learned is that Oba had a defined identity, right? She was a warrior. She was an organizer. She was a manager. She was a leader. She ran that household like a very tight run operation. She knew everyone's role. She knew how to make sure everyone's role was carried out properly. Oshun's role was to be the cook and she was his favorite wife. He had affections for her, but she was not Oba. She was not the first wife. So she was insecure about her role because she saw the affection that Shango had for Oshun and questioned her own role and her own power that she had. And I think Oba teaches us never to question or supplicate our power to jealousy, to envy, to insecurity, to unfulfilled understanding, and not knowing what we bring to a relationship, and thinking that, oh, well, I need to be more like her, because if I was more like her, and if she don't want you to be more like her, why would she tell you? Right? Why would she? So she trusted Oshun out of insecurity, and Oshun exploited it. in
That's
this
deep.
in this version of the Pateki. Does that answer your question, Isai? Okay. So there's a lot to learn in terms of how I counsel many people who we've had to talk about these questions of how we let, and Oshun is an Orisha, and it's very difficult not to talk about Oshun in some respects in this way, because Oshun is the Orisha that teaches us a lot about the range of emotions we can experience, right? And one of the things that Oshun oftentimes teaches us to address in our own lives and our own relationships are those questions of envy, those questions of jealousy, uh, and oftentimes, but for people of Oshun, having to manage others' feelings of envy or jealousy of them is something that happens a lot. So there's interest. So the more I talk, Roz, I think the more I get to your other question, right? So there are lots of issues or questions around how we manage those feelings. Do we manage them with our head or with our heart, right? And Oshun always teaches us using our head over our heart, making sure our head rules over our heart, right? So I think there's a lot of compliments here, even as we talk about it, even if I can't verify that my feeling and thinking is correct in terms of all of the oral literature, but there's a lot to learn about how we manage and rule over our own emotions and knowing who we are in relationships, knowing who we are not, as I mentioned. And so, yeah, she wasn't thinking, to answer your question, Esau, she wasn't thinking. She wasn't using her head, right? And we always talk about using our head, using our re, and giving ourselves, because Oshun also rules over intelligence too. She is the mother of intelligence. So there's a lot of connections between the cautionary tale of Oba's story and Oshun and what she rules over. So even as Oshun was betraying, she was also teaching a lesson in a way, right? This is my lane. I'm not, you gonna cut off your ear, that's your choice, but this is my lane. I'm the cook. I know I do this well. What do? You run the thing.
That gets into my next question. I was gonna ask, like, is there like, I don't know. I don't know the right question, but is there like necessarily like good and bad Orisha? Or
That
is
is
there
an
like they're
excellent
all the
question.
same?
That is an excellent question, Isai. That is an excellent question. And you're bringing something up that I'm sure other people are questioning in their mind, right? So, all Orisha, when we get into study of the Orisha, and I'd love to tell you all only the one, and I have actually focused a lot on a lot of the good qualities and the good, but all Orisha have cautionary tales. All Orisha do. That doesn't mean the Orisha are bad. It means that they have gone through tragedies and have gone through trials that are cautionary tales for us to learn from, to grow from, and to praise them for, because those cautionary tales elevate them to a status of knowledge that we only hope to obtain now as human beings, as mere human beings, right? Like Oshun's, I mentioned last week, Oshun's story of Ideyu and how she, after she had the twins, she gave her twins, because she was not settled in life, she gave her twins to her big sister, her older sister, Yamanja, to care for. And so the twins are the children of Oshun, but they're cared for by Yamanja. And I explained how that connects to a lot about what we know about the Ibeji. When she was sad and desperate and lonely, she went to the Iroko tree and prayed to the Iroko tree to please bring her happiness. Please bring her something that makes her feel worth living. Because when she lost her twins, she actually lost a lot of her sense of herself and her happiness. And she wanted fulfillment from a child that would bring her happiness. The Iroko tree, which is a sacred, powerful tree where a lot of Orisha who descend to earth, we believe their spirit resides in that Iroko tree. The Iroko tree blessed Oshun with a child, and that child was Ideyu. She had Ideyu, but the Iroko tree let her know that Ideyu was not hers to keep. She only let her have that happiness only for a while, but she had to return that tree to that child to the Iroko tree. Well, Oshun, when she had Ideyu, and Ideyu brought her such happiness, such joy, such fulfillment, such love. She felt in love with the world again through Ideyu and felt in love with possibility again through Ideyu. She couldn't dare give that up. And so instead of keeping her promise, she disguised Ideyu so that Iroko would never find Ideyu again. And so children of those of us who have Ibeji and Ideyu keep Ideyu close to Oshun and recognize the happiness that Ideyu brought Oshun and ask Ideyu when we need that same happiness in our lives. So that means, and there are lots of stories about Oshun being destitute, in all the ways that the Orisha supported and helped Oshun and how she helped them. So rather than looking at the Orisha stories help us to understand how we know so much about the containers of knowledge they give us, right? Oshun knows so much about the range of everything from the deepest depression to the highest joy because she experienced it, right? And Ideyu and the story with Ideyu kind of shows us that, right? So those cautionary tales gives us affirmation that we know the Orisha are fully able to relate and understand our needs because they have gone through so much in the tales that we understand about them that we can relate to. So that's why it's good to know as much about, all of that range of their stories, even about Shango and how he became a deified ancestor. That was a tragedy that we don't speak of, but it was a tragedy, right? Um, so all of these things that define how the Orisha are for us give us confidence in their capacity to really understand our needs and support our needs. Is that helpful, Isai?
Yeah, so basically the the idea I got is that all Orisha are good and bad. So like they're okay. My mom thinks I'm talking to her. Uh, I'm talking to Deidre. Anyways.
Yeah. No, but you got it. So they have their patakis tell us a full accounting of what their stories are, and those inform how we understand Odu and how we understand life, and how we understand how to move forward in life. So Oba's tale doesn't end with her cutting off her ear and her eventual demise that way. It ends with our knowledge of um, how to take what we learned from those stories that I just talked about and turn those into better outcomes for ourselves so that we're not suffering. So that's what I think that's really how we resolve those tensions for ourselves is that we make sure that he keeps coming in and out, that we do as much as we can to learn what we can, do what we can, so that we minimize suffering for ourselves. So,
I'm sorry, can I ask a question? So
absolutely.
with the question that was just posed,
Hmm.
about the good and bad in Orisha, the way you explained it is I didn't take it as bad. I took it as human, just human qualities, to help us learn and they understand us better. I didn't see the bad because when I think of bad, I think of they've turned away from um what they're here for. I guess that's what I envisioned or thought. Is there a
Yeah.
time when I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going, keep going. I'm glad you said that. Keep going.
Is there a time when Narisha has turned from being who they're supposed to be, and you know, like like the angels and the devils, you know. So is there a time in any Orisha's life that or being that they've turned away from? I think the closest I could think about is SU, I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I see what you're saying. Yep. Okay. This is a good question. And I actually had a question about this, and all of this, these are really excellent questions. I had a similar discussion with my study group because some of you know, I study divination with my elders. And there is a difference. And some of you may be familiar with this, but there was a whole campaign, particularly in Nigeria, that tried to paint, and this is going to answer your question, but I'm going to go around a little bit, Joey, okay? There was a campaign by the evangelical church in Nigeria to paint Eshu as Satan. Eshu and Alegba are Orisha that are one and the same, but are complementary energies to each other. Alegba is the Orisha whose energy we can welcome into our home. That is the one that communicates with any and all beings, and is the owner of destiny, the one that helps facilitate our ability to experience fate in life. And is the Orisha that was present when the God that our supreme being Olodumare breathed life into all of us. And Alegba was there when we chose our individual God consciousness, or our Ori. Alegba was there to put his ashe on our decision to choose the head we chose to come to earth. Eshu is the other complementary nature of Alegba that we see as causing or connected to disorder and chaos. So that duality of Alegba, of the one area that is the chief, kind of like the chief spokesman for God, and elevated and respected as this as the one that begins all ceremonies for us. We don't even do a libation without acknowledging Alegba, right? Then in this other aspect that causes chaos and disorder, they have to coexist. It doesn't make Eshu bad. It makes the need for disorder and chaos oftentimes teach us about the need for how to maintain order and clarity, right? So there's a lot of proverbs that can speak to this. Okana, the proverb from the Ojo Okana, without good, there is no bad. Without any bad, there is no good. So Eshu uses the tools that are connected to chaos and disorder and mayhem and catastrophe in order to cause balance or to teach lessons that support the forward movement of humanity towards the good. So it's an instrument. It's not it's a means to a greater end. It's not the end itself. It's not chaos for chaos sake. It's not evil for evil's sake. It's not negativity for negativity's sake. Yoruba cosmology always emphasizes balance. Always emphasizes balance. There is always an imperative by the earth, by Onile, Mother Earth, by the great mothers, by Alegba, by Olodumare. There's always an imperative to strike balance in the world. Not quite like Thanos, because Thanos was about balance too, remember? He was, right? He thought if I snapped my finger and I eliminated half the universe, if I snapped my finger and eliminated half the universe, then everyone will have what they need. He thought he was doing the right thing, but it meant literally killing half the population, right? So it's not like snap your fingers, Thanos kind of balance, but it is a way for, because we have to be conscious to learn. We have to use our consciousness to experience that it is balance. So that's the difference between Thanos. Thanos is saying, I'm the one to create balance. Elegba and Eshu are saying, we're introducing to you opportunity and tools for you to see all the possibilities so that you can create the balance you need for yourself. You have to know it all. You have to know all of the range of possibilities that exist in the world in order to make an informed and an informed decision about where you stand and how you stand. And so that's what the Orishas do for us. And so I hope that answers your question, Joy. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I think what I'm hearing is that it's not so much as bad and turning into something evil, but it creates a balance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I got.
Yeah. So it's kind of like what you're saying, and the whole question, and I like what you said about human qualities, right? That was really good. There is this idea of, I'd say, qualities of all living things, right? In nature, all living things that have a consciousness. But we focus on humans because we relate to ourselves and other humans as those we have to negotiate these things with mostly, right? Um, so yes, human qualities are what we acknowledge in these patakis that help us to relate to what the lesson is. So, so we take from that what we can so that we can understand for ourselves how we should move in the world and be better informed and evolved in the world. And that's why, it's good to talk about the patakis, even the ones that are not, PG, right? Because without that, we really have a very only surface understanding, not only of the Orisha, but also about how the Orisha are supporting and engaging with us and helping us to learn lessons. And that's where the real study is. If you get beyond just the Oshun, the seductress, the Oshun, the beautiful Oshun, the river Oshun, the honey, and you get to the other stuff, the stuff where, again, she abandoned her twin. She had a child that she literally stole to keep. Um, she washed her clothes. She was immaculate. She's a Fufu Orisha. She's white. Her clothes were originally white, but she was so destitute for many years after losing all of her riches and all of her stability that she had to wash her clothes in the river because she had no place to live. And when she washed her clothes in the rivers, that's how it turned yellow. So Shu knows what it's like to not to have. So that's when we talk about these qualities and talk about really studying the Orisha and getting beyond the surface level. We really get to engage in a way that's potentially very powerful. Okay, you all asking some really wonderful questions. Anything else? Hi to those who haven't said hi to those who I haven't seen in a while. Hey, Dashe. How you doing, love? I was thinking about you. So glad to see you. I was thinking about you not too long ago. And good welcome, Gia. This is your first class today. I won't put you on the spot to ask you if you have any questions. I won't put you on the spot, but you can always text me if you have any questions.
No, this is really good. I'm processing, and I will probably have questions, but this is so good and so rich. So I'm really enjoying this. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad you are. Okay.
Isa, I had a question.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm scrolling up and down, so I've not seen who all had questions. Yes, Isai?
Yes, I have two questions. One of them is about, okay, so my first question was um what would happen if somebody was a child of Ishu?
So we initiate people as, that's an interesting question, and I think I know why you're asking that. Um, if you're a child of a Legba, you have a relationship with Eshu. So, and there are people who have names in them that say Eshu versus Alegba, right? So, in a lot of the Eshu name, a lot of the Alegba names are Eshu names. That does not mean that they have more of a relationship with chaos and disorder versus the calmer side of Alegba. It just means that they have a relationship with that part of our reality. And it does not mean that they have some tendency towards it or anything like that. It just means that as a child of Electa, SU is a part of how they work and walk within life. So they may have more opportunities to learn about balance than many other people do. And and even when you see certain people who, when they mount a leg bow, they mount with one foot off the ground and dancing with on the other foot, right? So that says something about how that relationship that people of a leg bow have with balance. So I'd say that if they're initiated and their Orisha is a leg bow and they have an SU name, they, as I mentioned, their relationship and journey with balance is an important one. And that's true for all children of Alegba, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
You had another question, right?
Yeah, my second question that is I would my second question is, can me, you, and my dad talk after the class?
Sure. That would not be a problem at all.
You know that's recorded, Isai, right?
Yeah.
It's all good. I think he was trying to be discreet. That's it. So,
Yeah.
mhm. All right. Makiba, how you doing?
Hello, I'm
Haven't
doing
seen you.
well.
Good. Good to see
Let me
you,
turn
or
on my
good to
camera.
see your. Okay.
I'm here with my mom, taking care of
Okay.
her. She's
Oh,
not doing
good.
well, but trying to
Oh,
nurse her
she's
back to
okay. Well, let's talk. We'll keep her in our prayers. We have I'll mention actually we have prayer service once a month. Um and definitely we definitely want to make sure we take that request to pray for your mom. So let's stay in touch about that, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Glad you can join us for class. So one song, I'm going to teach a very simple song for that also kind of doubles as an oriki for Oba. A very simple one that you definitely would hear at a bembe or at a drum for the Orisha. Bembe is kind of like meaning drum ceremony for Oba. So I'll start it, and I'll try to sing it slower so you guys can catch up. Okay. Oba eleko aya osi asha ba eleko aya osi obado any oba obado. Okay. I'll sing you. We can't all sing it together because it will be chaos. So I'm not going to ask you guys to unmute yourselves, but if you can hum it where you are or try to attack the, try to do the words where you are, you can. Okay. 1 second. I'm sorry. Hi, Michael. I'm in class. I'll come there as soon as I can. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. All right. Oba eleko ayaosi ashapa eleko ayaosi. Oba eleko ayaosi ashapa eleko ayaosi. Oba eleko ayaosi ashapa eleko ayaosi. Obayeleko ayaosi ashabayeleko ayaosi. And so the next part is obado, any obado, obado, any obado, obado. Any obado, obado, any obado. Y'all feel comfortable learning that?
Wait, could you do that transition from the Oba Ileko Aya or Si Ashaba E, but you switch with the second Ileko? You
Ah,
extended it. You extended it. So
I did. Oh, that wasn't bad though. I mean, what you said wasn't bad though. You didn't do bad there, my godson. All right, let me try this. Okay.
I can say it. I can't sing it though.
Right. Well, that's where you start, right? You start where you are. You can start, you can say it, you can add a tune to it, right? So I'll do that again. I'll just do the whole thing so you can hear it. Oh, by eleko, I'll see, I shall by eleko, I'll see. Oh, by eleko, I'll see, I shall by eleko, I'll see. Oh, by eleko, I'll see, I shall by eleko, I'll see. So it's eleco versus eleco. So it's the same accent mark, but different key, I guess. So it's a little lower key register for the second one and drawn out a little more.
Yeah, I see it. I was trying to get the cadence on that transition. So
Yeah, eleco. So it's versus eleco. It's eleco. It's kind of like drops behind the time a little bit on the second one.
yeah, and it felt like you kind of the Ashaba went right into it, right? Like
Hmm.
Ashaba. Okay.
Right. That's why I wanted to do a one. This is actually one of the lesser complicated ones. For her, there's a lot of tongue twisting with hers for some reason. Some of her songs have a lot of tongue twisting kind of qualities to it. So I wanted to do one that was the less and one that you hear. I mean, this is like the song that generally is played, at least one of like three songs that's played for Oba. Um, Only time you'll generally hear more is if there's a child of Oba there that needs to be played for, and you may hear more songs than just that one. Um, which goes into another explanation. So if you're at a bata or traditional fundamento drum, and where of the drums are played, I covered some of that in the music class. So you have, the three cylindrical drums that are played by hand by three drummers. At the beginning, after the first priests who dance for their particular Orisha to the drum. So after they finish doing the ordo, when they're just playing for the Orisha, they'll start in order playing for different or playing for only one Orisha at a time, and all the priests for that Orisha come up and dance and salute the drum for that Orisha. So when Oba's children come, if there are any children of Oba present, they would do that and dance for Oba, and you would hear more songs sung during that period. Other than that, you generally hear like 3 to 4 songs total for Oba at drums, because there are not a lot of people initiated to Oba, unfortunately. Okay. The second part seems to be easier than the first part for you guys. Yeah. Okay, saying yeah. Okay. Well, that was all I had for class today. I want to honor everyone's time. It is now 6:30. And I kind of flipped it. I was planning on doing another Orisha today. I decided to do Oba, given that today was her feast day. But I've said this before. If there are any topics that you all would like to see discussed, I'd be glad, or Orisha in particular, that you would like to make sure that we cover, I will be more than happy to do that for you. Okay. There are many, many Orisha, so this class can go on for a very long time. And there are different ways we can talk about inner alignment. We had the one class on dance and song and music, which I actually enjoyed doing. So there are ways that we can do classes of that nature too. And if there are other aspects of the tradition that you have a question about inner alignment with, I'll be glad to cover that as a subject matter. Any other questions or the insights that anyone would like to share?
I have a random question. Oh, if somebody was going first, y'all could go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna ask in terms of the classes. I know last week I did see the email where you gave the password to the recordings. So do you have access to more of those so we can go back and view those classes?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. So I can do that for you guys. Not a problem.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So my question was, it's a double whammy. Um, First is how often should you get consultations or divination? And then the second is, are you available for divinations?
Yes, I am available for divinations. The only day this month I'm not doing them is Mother's Day. So that's Sunday, y'all. I'm out. And I don't do commercial holidays, but I just feel like that day I just want to just chill. You know what I mean? But yeah, otherwise I am available. Makeba, we can talk when you're ready. We can either do a phone call or a text, whatever works easiest for you. But yes, that is not a problem. In terms of how often, and I'm speaking honestly here, there's a difference to me between who a client is and who a student in a tradition is. A client may have readings once a month. I have some clients that come to me once a month for readings. I have clients that come to me like every 2 to 3 months for readings, just because they would like to have, more insight or more support and treat this as a way to check in with their alignment. I find that, and this is how I've been trained, unless there is a pending issue or something of immediate concern that needs attention, generally I don't recommend getting readings more than once a year. Because if you're a student and or a godchild or a someone who is endeavoring to study in the tradition, the process for watching how the information, insights, um, and just engagement with phenomena of Orisha in the world, how that unfolds oftentimes can be over a longer period of time than just a few months. Oftentimes it takes a while for the person to really integrate what's been told to them and revealed to them and integrate how that can in whether they make offering or not, maybe they have to do work in relationship to that or not. I find it takes time, and I myself don't get readings more than once a year unless I absolutely have to, because the work isn't in getting the readings. The work is in growing, learning, studying, integrating, because there's an integration to this. If people are committed to this as more than just something that they consume and commit to it as a possible practice for themselves, that's a part of their health and well-being, then readings only get you back to another beginning. Right? If you know what I mean. So you've gone through your one reading and then things happen, but then you have another reading because you want to know how something else, and so you're getting back to new beginnings with readings versus or new. Sometimes some people come to readings, so it's like, you must be looking for something. Okay. Then they get what they're looking for. Some people come because they're searching, and there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you have to be clear about what it is you're actually looking for. So I would say and it's no problem either way. If people consider themselves clients, there is no judgment at all. But just know that's where a person is at versus a person who really is looking for something beyond that and integrating knowledge and practice beyond just what they can consume. Oh,
That
does
makes
that answer your
perfect sense.
question? Yeah.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. And then can I ask one last question if it's not too much?
Sure.
Um, if you feel, you don't have to answer. But what does a divination with you typically look like? Because I don't think I've had one with you before.
You have not. Well, well, I've been doing them virtually for a year now, and I'm still not at the point where I'm, doing them in person yet. I'm still playing that by ear. Um, so essentially, it will be virtual, either by phone or by Zoom. I'm gonna stop the recording because I don't think we need to be recording. Or did the recording stop on its own? I think it's okay. Stop recording.